Hello everyone, so I just wanted to talk about this video. Now, I don't mean any offence to the person that uploaded this, etc. I consider him as a friend. I know some people consider that insane, but I do consider him as a friend. The same as majority of people who talk to me on YouTube, etc. I consider them as a friend, especially people that are here regularly. I talk to them and they talk to me, and sometimes they talk to me about things, that affect them in life, and some stuff personal, etc. And I respect that, and I have great respect for people like that. And I have great respect for people in general too that talk to me, etc. Even though I might disagree with them on different topics. Take for example the last video about the Ireland leaving the European Union, if it should leave. There's been many people that disagreed with me. Now, I never was ashamed to say, I was wrong, or my opinion, etc. Because I always will stand up for my values. I always will stand up for what I believe in. And I'm not going to tell you what I don't believe, because to be told, because I'd be lying to myself. But I hold my views, and nobody influences my views. And I will address this. And again, I mean no disrespect to the person over this, of course. That's not my intention here. Now, the first thing I'll get with that, now it's an AI kind of thing, so. But yeah, it's quite cute, the photo, may I say.
So imagine you're just, scrolling
just so
on a random Tuesday.
Like we all do.
Right, exactly. And you
there might be an echo, but just to show
channel, and it's run by a guy who is fiercely demanding Ireland for the Irish.
Okay.
See, just to talk about this bit particularly, we'll get into everything else. There's a lot to get into. But I just wanted to make this video just to kind of clarify, because it's better than, speaking in the comments, etc. It's better just to address it, etc. Because I'm not afraid of criticism. I never was afraid of criticism in my life. I often criticise myself a lot. And we get into the criticism bit in a second, there's another bit. But I want to just show you this and why. Because I do believe that Ireland belongs to the Irish, and the same as Finland. This person's from Finland. Finland belongs to the people of Finland. The people of Finland had to fight, to keep their independence from the Soviet Union. It belongs to the people of Finland. It's the same as India belongs to Indians. The same as Ethiopia belongs to the Ethiopians. It's the same, but we declare the rights to the people of Ireland, to the ownership of Ireland, and the federal control of Irish sovereignty to be sovereign and indivisible. The people of Ireland, not to anybody else. It's the people of Ireland who own this country. And that was signed by the proclamation of 1916. These people, the names underneath, gave their lives, so were executed for their beliefs, were executed for what they wanted to achieve for Ireland, what they were fighting for. And the whole idea about Ireland belongs to the Irish, and Patrick Pearse, you see the name here, who's the president of he's the president of Ireland, basically, the first president of Ireland when, with the provisional governments, I suppose you would use the name. But he gave his life, and he always said Ireland belongs to the Irish, and that nobody ever had the right, as it says, by a foreign government or a foreign nation to impose their will on Ireland. And it says national freedom and sovereignty, etc. That no government has the right, or never shall have the right, to the British government, carefully fostered by an alien government, as it says. But this is what I hold dear, because these men gave their lives so the Irish nation will live. And I believe what Patrick Pearse, because he gave his life for that flag behind me to be up. And I believe in that. I truly do believe in that Ireland belongs to the Irish, because the Irish people had to fight for 800 years. And to say that Ireland does not belong to the Irish, etc., would be an insult to the people who gave their lives, that one day that they would never see, that one day their country would be free, that would have their own sovereignty, would have their own flag, would be able to identify as Irish, So I hold that as a deep belief, to be told. It's not that, and people might consider that far-right extremism, but you have to look at the context, you have to look at history, because so many people give their lives so the Irish nation may live, and that one day that Ireland would belong to the Irish, that it never would be claimed as a British territory, for example, that the British government never did, never shall, never will have the right to Ireland. The only people who has the right to Ireland is the people of Ireland. James Connolly said that, and he was a socialist too. That he said the British government never have the right and never shall have the right to govern Ireland. Only the Irish people themselves.
Videos are super aggressive, very anti-immigrant. And
the thing I say about this bit, particularly about super aggressive, I'm not that aggressive. There's people on YouTube that would be just like very aggressive, very threatening and stuff. Usually I just say what I take. Sometimes I do get a bit angry and stuff. In fairness, I do. But I don't think I'm that aggressive. I think I'm very reasonable in a lot of cases. I never shout anybody down. Like even in the comments, there's people often said horrible things to me in the comments. And I always would be fair to them. I always would try and talk to them fairly, try and understand where they're coming from. And I do understand, even this person in question, we often had many arguments, but maybe tried the arguments under the comment sections many times. And I still would understand where he's coming from, if that makes any sense. I was never would say, this is the wrong opinion. Maybe sometimes I would disagree with him. And in fairness, I would disagree a lot with him. But at the same time too, I would understand his view. I would listen to what he had to say. I wouldn't just say, "Oh, this is awful." You know, sometimes I would when it came to, you take for example people being assaulted and stuff like that. I think that's unquestionable when somebody gets hurt, etc. But the thing about that, the immigrant and stuff, this is the thing. The country is being the country. There's so many people coming in. You have to understand, for such a small country like Ireland, it's unsustainable. It really, really is unsustainable. Look at the situation at the moment. That we cannot sustain, having 500,000 people, 300,000 people turning up here every year. It simply is not sustainable for such a small country like Ireland. It cannot be done.
And just hyper focus on keeping foreigners out of local affairs.
But this is the other thing. Like, I do believe, and I'd be honest, and I say this even if I were to immigrate in Finland or anywhere else, that no national, say in the case in terms of Ireland, should have the right to vote in. And maybe if you were voting for the European Parliament, you were a European citizen, maybe that would be different. But I don't believe that people that are non-nationals, and this is the same for Irish in Australia or New Zealand, I don't think you should have the right to vote in my majority of the cases, unless you're there for 30 years. Maybe then after 30 years you would have the right to vote. But to be totally honest, I don't believe in that. I don't believe, to be genuine, I might as well be honest.
But then, and this is the crazy part, you glance up at his channel bio.
Yeah.
And he proudly claims to be the official PR manager for the former Prime Minister of Finland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So just to say about the PR, like obviously, the reason why I say I'm Sanna Mount's biggest fan, etc., because it's not just me that said it, especially me going over that time about a book, Hope in Action. But a lot of people do say that, and a lot of people when I did say that, they said that is a big fan of hers. Even people that said it, even people in the local media here in my area said that there's not many people that will go out of their way, because I didn't get anything. I went to meet her and stuff, and of course it was great, and I'm still very humbled by the experience. But the thing about it was that I only went to meet her, and that's the only reason why I went from Ireland to Finland. 3 hours on the plane, thousands of euro to go and meet her. And now I know you would say that's a distraction, but at the same time, there's not many Irish people that would go out of their way to defend somebody like Sanna Mount or anything. And I don't regret that. I don't regret it for one moment. It was a great experience. I would do it 3 times. I would do it 100 times over if I had to. I have no regrets about it. But the thing I would just say about it, I just wanted to touch on this. I don't know. I don't think he touches in the video. We're only 32 seconds in, just to say. But to do with freedom of movement and EU benefits and stuff, when I went to Finland in March, obviously, as I said in the comments, I cannot change what passport I have. There's no way I can change it. I'm an Irish citizen. I have a European passport, unfortunately. When I went to March in Finland, there was thousands of euros. It was thousands of euros for accommodation, for the flights, for the general spending. We're talking about thousands. We're talking about literal thousands. So the very least the European Union could do was let me go in. We just had to scan my passport basically. But at the same time, I wasn't going to the Finnish government or the European Union and say, please pay for my accommodation. I paid for it myself. So that's the difference. And at the end of the day too, if Ireland wasn't in the European Union, I'd be happy enough. Going through the non-Schengen area, etc. But
Yeah, Sanna Marin, the notoriously progressive, open border, pro-globalization.
But this is the thing, just about Sanna Marin. She never claimed to be open border. Like, if you look at the stats, particularly at the moment, the stats from the True Finns and the National Coalition Party, etc., they let in more immigrants than Sanna Marin's government did. So I don't know about Sanna Marin being open borders, because there seems to be more people, and especially there's more Iranian citizens and Iraqi citizens getting citizenship in Finland than under Sanna Marin's government. So I wouldn't say she was open borders.
I mean, that is just an absolute collision of worldviews right there.
Totally.
You've got this hyper-local, exclusionary nationalism just smashed right up against a deep obsession with a progressive international icon.
And that bizarre collision is exactly what we are unpacking for you today. Welcome to the...
Right into this. How in the world does a local political activist in Cavan connect himself
just let
to a
him speak,
former
because I just
Finnish prime minister?
address different points.
It's a completely bizarre juxtaposition, right? On one hand, you have a channel heavily focused on these highly localized Irish grievances. And on the other hand, there's this intense fixation on Sanna Marin, who is one of Europe's most prominent progressive leaders. Well, observers point out that the channel bridges that gap in a very specific, kind of strange way. The creator has essentially built an entire PR manager persona, and it's built off of literally just a single photograph taken with some...
But this is the thing. Like, I don't hide behind Sanna Marin's photo and stuff. Like, even with the last video, the European, talking about leaving the European Union, I didn't just pull out Sanna Marin's photo and be like, you can't criticise me because I met Sanna Marin, etc. Of course, I will admit it's one of the most amazing moments ever. I'm very humbled by it. I don't think I ever was so touched by a person in my life, just to meet them. So with this crown, it's very just insane, and I'm being honest when I say that. It's just totally just, I never thought it would happen, but I'm so delighted that it did happen. But what I'm trying to say is not like I put the photo front and center. As soon as I'm talking, I just take the photo off the wall and shove it into the camera. No, like oftentimes I'll be talking about things that have no relevance to Sanna Marin or anything like that, but I don't take off the photo. Like, say if I'm talking about the Irish government's such and such, I don't take the photo off and say, if anybody criticises me, take for example, with the EU video, I just didn't take Sanna Marin's picture off the wall and say, look, you cannot criticise me because, I took a photo with Sanna Marin, etc. I don't do that. I don't kind of create a personality. Of course, it's a great moment. I always have a smile. Even when tough times and stuff like that, whenever I look at the photo, it always brings a smile to my face, which is a good thing to say. But I don't hide behind it, and I don't kind of base everything off a single photo. Of course, it was a big moment for me, etc. But it's not something that defines me, because I'd talk about other things, etc. It'd be different if I had a front and centre. I had no camera and it was just a picture and stuff like that.
With Sanna Marin, despite having absolutely no official professional ties to her or to her political party for that matter.
But this is the thing about her political party, just to say this fact, that I do know people in the Social Democrats. I knew people that worked with her, like in her circle in some cases. I knew people in Tapbury that were there when she was a city councillor and stuff, helping her out. So I know people from her political party. I do know people. That's how I got to meet her, because I know some of the people that were with her and know her personally. And I met somebody, I met people that were high up in the Social Democrats, etc. Like, not politicians, but the people working in the background. So I do have a good few ties to the background. I don't have any personal, like the Tony Blair Institute, of course, but
the channel frequently pushes this narrative of being her self-appointed defender.
But this is the thing about being her self-appointed defender. There is a good few people online, and just to say actually, which the recent interview she done to Euronews, take for example, particularly a lot of Russian pro-Kremlin accounts were making up horrid lies about Sanna Marin, making up terrible stuff. And along with me and a few other people, we pushed back. We pushed back on Twitter against them. In some of the accusations that the Russian bots were pushing and Russian people were pushing. And we pushed back. There's a group of us, there's 3 or 4 of us in the group on Twitter, that we work together. We're all Sanna Marin supporters. And we work together to try and help Sanna Marin's image. We do that, and these are people that I know from Finland too, that we work together to try and push back against Russian disinformation. Because Sanna Marin, won't say anything against this Russian disinformation, and probably in a way she is right. But at the same time, you have to try and defend her, because she is a good woman, she is a good person, and Finland's very lucky to have her. But I do have to try and speak up for the person that you respect, and the person you look up to. Anybody would do it. The person that you look up to, you're always trying to defend them as much as possible, and that's what I try and do. And of course, especially with just sheer lies that have been said about her.
It's an entire identity constructed out of a brief captured moment. Now, to really grasp the scale of this disconnect, just think about the number 34. Back in 2019, at just 34 years old, Sanna Marin became the world's youngest serving prime minister. During her time in office, she held massive global influence. She fundamentally altered Finland's long-standing policy of military non-alignment by leading her country into NATO right after the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. So you have this level of historic international diplomacy, and it contrasts so sharply with the localized and often pretty aggressive content published on the Adrian Logan FTW channel. All right, moving on to section...
But I wouldn't say it's pretty aggressive. Of course, in the last few months, I have decided, because beforehand there was a lot more tone. What I mean by tone is a bit more mute. And I suppose it should be a lot more louder, because these facts that we're talking about and things that's happening to Ireland, for too long, people were saying, oh, sure, look at what can you do, etc. But you have to be loud, unfortunately. And I think even Sanna Marin herself said that you have to speak. You have to be not afraid to speak up. And you have to be not afraid to use your voice. And again, me and her might disagree on a few things, but I respect the hell out of her. I do respect the hell out of her, and I will talk about that now in a second. But
Section 1, a stark ideological clash. And that contrast brings us right to a huge contradiction identified in our source material. On one side, you've got the primary rhetoric of this YouTube channel, which leans heavily into Ireland for the Irish messaging, exclusionary nationalism, and some pretty intense anti-immigrant sentiments. But on the flip side, we see the actual political...
But this is the thing, just to say, the last thing to say, but at the immigrant settlement, like this YouTube channel is still making money and stuff off, like, at the immigrant settlement. Like, every day they're talking about it. Every day, every minute of the day they have a video up about it. I very rarely, it's every once in a while you see me talking about when something happens, someone that needs to be talked about. But usually I'm talking about ambulances, wait times and stuff, and hospital treatment. Like YouTube, other YouTube channels, particularly Irish nationalists and stuff, wouldn't talk about them basic stuff, you know. But it's important, the basic stuff is important. So I don't kind of build the whole reputation of an anti-immigrant, etc. thing. Because there's too many people coming here, I will admit that, but I'm not, you know, just against everybody, if that makes any sense. But the thing that is, I'm against the government mainly, because the government allowing this to happen.
Reality of the very figure the creator fixates on. Sanna Marin is globally recognized for her liberal, progressive, and decidedly pro-EU stances, policies that actively support humanitarian migration and international cooperation. It's literally a massive ideological collision. Because of this, critics highlight a really fascinating concept called brand jacking. Looking at the source text, it points out that instead of actually managing her PR, the channel's creator is tethering her international name to localized exclusionary grievances.
But just to say about this, like, of course, you know, I'm not using Sanna Marin in every instance to say, oh yeah, I'm Sanna Marin's biggest fan and stuff. Like, I speak my own talk. I don't speak for Sanna Marin. And that's to be totally honest with you. But I don't tie out to anything. Anything I say, I take full responsibility on my own account. Sanna Marin has nothing to do, you know, with anything I say or anything I do. I only have her up here because she is an inspiration to me, and she is a good person, and I pretty much too. You know, it's somebody that I look up to. It's not that I want to bring her into anything or disavow her thoughts or opinions or anything. I wouldn't dream of doing that. I don't want to do that to Sanna Marin. There's people who've done that in the past, or I don't wish to. It was never my intention. Never was. It never is, and never will shall be. And I always do everything to stop that, because I don't want to be bringing her name into stuff and stuff. If that makes any sense.
He's essentially using her likeness to validate a brand of rhetoric that she has spent her entire career actively...
But this is the thing, I don't use her to just say, this is Sanna Marin approves of this and stuff. I don't do that. I say whatever I take, etc.
...fighting against. Analysts note that this constant association actually ends up damaging the former Prime Minister's reputation in those digital spaces.
But this is the sad thing, I have to say to you, and this is the truth, to be totally honest. Like, unfortunately, and this is the thing, that when she joined the Tony Blair Institute particularly, you know, and I'll speak about it more in a few minutes, but that done more damage, I suppose, than anything I can ever do, to be totally honest. Because a lot of people, still to this day, I get comments like it's the main thing to stop, but she joined the Tony Blair Institute, etc. And I defend her. Even though I don't like Tony Blair, but I do defend her. Simple as that. She's making the Tony Blair Institute better, and she is. And I defend her, and I really, really do. And that's what I say, I really do defend her when it comes to that. Even though I don't like Tony Blair, you know, I still defend her in that regard. But I don't damage her reputation. Like, very, very seldomly what I say is, you know, said, oh, because he has a picture of Sanna Marin, etc. Usually the focus on what you're saying, not what's in the background, you know.
Which brings us to section 2, the cry-bully dynamic. So you might be wondering, how does an online persona keep up this kind of massive contradiction without completely collapsing under the weight of scrutiny? Well, analysts point to some fascinating underlying psychological tactics. Have you ever heard the term...
But the thing I say about this is, I wouldn't consider myself a quiet body, to be totally honest. Like, I never hide behind anything. When, you know, I say something, etc. Never hide behind it. I always say my view, and that's it. Now, a few times, of course, just to say about this creator and stuff, a few times we disagreed and stuff. A few times I thought he was being unreasonable in some of the stuff he was posting. Even though he has every right to, his constitution allows him to post everything he wants. But what I'm trying to say, a few times I did think he was being unreasonable in some of the things he was saying. And I wouldn't say about him personally. Like, I could say a lot worse about him now, if I wanted to, but I'm not going to, because I don't know. I never met him personally. You know, and it's not nice. So it's not nice, because I don't know him personally, so I can't make, you know, accusations. It wouldn't be fair. It's not reasonable. And that's usually a lot of YouTubers, just to say, would just straight away block this. They would never address this. They would never talk about it. But, you know, I'm here talking about it because I want to be fair, and that's the simple thing. I want to be fair with people.
Term crybully. It was popularized back in the early 2010s, and we've all probably run into accounts that act like this online. A crybully is someone who aggressively initiates conflict or targets other people.
But the thing I say about this target other people, like I'm very rarely targeting other people individually. Like I see YouTube channels straight away, every day of the week they make a drama or get somebody. But I don't do that. I don't target people. I don't like say we're going to target this person, etc. I don't do that. Whatever about the government and stuff. For the government, you have to have accountability. You have, as it says here, accountability, etc. You have to have it.
The exact moment they face pushback, they instantly claim emotional harm or victimhood.
But this is the thing, I never claimed, ever, I don't even think ever, that I was emotionally harmed, etc. and stuff that was said. There's been awful things said about me and stuff, but I never claimed emotional harm or victimhood. I never said I was a victim and stuff. I simply wouldn't do that. There's a few times, as I say, some things that were said were really, really mean. Like, really, really mean. I'm not from this creator, but other times. But, I never claimed to be a victim. I never claimed to be a victim of it. I was a victim, maybe, of the Irish state a few times when I was younger. Being abandoned when I was younger. Particularly when it came to education, dyslexia and stuff. I understand that, but yeah.
To deflect that scrutiny. In psychology, this is tied to something called narcissistic victimhood, where a person manipulates their environment and shuts down dissent by framing themselves as the ultimate.
But this is the thing, if I wanted to shut down dissent, I see it all the time on other YouTube channels, I would straight away just ban anybody. Anybody said boo all against me, like soon if they said no, I don't agree with you. A lot of channels, I've seen YouTube channels, and I kid you not, as soon as you disagree with somebody, you're gone. And I don't do that. There's been oftentimes I had arguments, and this account is a perfect example, even though I might disagree with him. He still, I didn't never blocked him. He blocked me on his channel, but I never blocked him because I believe, like, in freedom of speech, unless somebody really done something bad. But I always try and be fair with people, and I always try and be reasonable with people, and understand people. I think that's the main thing. But if I wanted to shut down the set, I would be doing that. But I always would defend my position. I always would defend my view. Now I know some people would consider that, maybe a bit like that, but no.
Ultimate victim. Analysts have actually mapped this out into a super predictable 3-part loop happening on the channel. Here's how it works. Step 1, aggressively target local institutions, policies, or even specific individuals.
But the thing about it is specific individuals, not necessarily. Whatever about targeting local institutions, fair enough. Because again, if you're an institution, particularly a public institution paid by the taxpayer, you have an obligation to be scrutinised. And rightly so, because there is rotten stuff happening in local organisations. And rightly so, as we've seen with our former Lord Mayor and Cavan being corrupt. There needs to be scrutiny, particularly with them instances. Them things like that can happen. And if you don't know what that's about, it's a long story behind it.
Step 2, face the inevitable community scrutiny, disagreement, or even legal pushback.
But this is the thing, I often, every time somebody disagrees with me, I always like, how do you disagree with me? How do you disagree? What have I said that upset you? And usually the majority of the time people wouldn't answer in a lot of cases, but then sometimes they do answer. But I don't say shut up, be quiet. I never have said that to anybody on YouTube. I always try and be fair. Because at the end of the day too, the way I see it, particularly when somebody comments, even though I firmly disagree with somebody, I would never shout them down, because I don't know what that person's going through in life. And that's the thing. And a lot of YouTubers don't think like that, but I do think about that, because you never know what somebody's going through in the back end. You never know, their mother could have died, their father could have died, something could have happened. And I don't want to be somebody that's going to kick them down, I don't want to do that. Never was my intention.
And then step 3, instead of engaging with the accountability, immediately pivot to a narrative of persecuted victimhood, framing standard, everyday accountability as quote-unquote bullying. And
this is the thing, I never did that. I never claimed to be bullied or anything. Never claimed. I don't even think I maybe did once or twice, maybe years ago. But not nowadays. I don't claim to be bullied.
This is exactly where the sauna marine fixation becomes an actual tool. Analysts describe that single photograph as acting like a one-photo shield. It's a form of social currency that gives off this false sense of proximity to power. So when the creator gets called out on his anti-immigrant stance...
But this is the thing, I don't, like at the background, a lot of people sometimes wouldn't even notice that. But, it's not that. It's not that at all. Like, it'd be different if it was actually hiding behind the photograph, but I don't. Like, Sand Mountain's in the background though. I'm talking. I'm not sitting here and saying, anytime somebody says boo against me, I don't pick up the photo and say, you cannot criticise me. I often had criticism, and that's what comes with YouTube, and I'm why I'm here too is because I want to talk. I should have probably talked about this long ago, but it's trying to get the time because these things take time.
Stances or exclusionary rhetoric, he often spins the critique as an unfair attack on his association with high-profile figures.
Well, not really. Like what he's just saying here, particularly. I've said a few times about one of the two things he posts on his community post. That was unfair. I didn't say it was an attack on associated with high-profile figures, but I said it was unfair in one of the two things he posts, and I thought it was a bit unreasonable. Even though we had every right to post and not, but I thought it was a bit unfair. That's what I thought, a bit unfair, because I wouldn't have done it if it was on the other foot. If I was in his situation and posted that, I wouldn't have done it. Just to say, even if I didn't like it or anything like that, I wouldn't have done it. But
By claiming the pushback is unjust, he's attempting to derail any legitimate debate about his content and redirect the focus.
But this is the thing, anybody would tell you about debate. Like, whatever about debate, like, I'm the man for debate. What I'm trying to say about that is, I will debate into hell to back. Like, even there's multiple times I had literally 50 comments back and forth between this creator. Like 50 or 100 comments in one case. That I literally just went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like, I would argue and argue till the cows come home, because I won't give up on my values. I won't give up on my views. And I would defend my views, and I would say what I think, and I would argue my points, if that makes any sense. And that's what democracy is. That's a healthy democracy. Because if I just said straight away any criticism is not allowed. But the thing about criticism, particularly when I see channels like that, what I was talking about earlier on, that as soon as you criticise the person you're banned, that gives them a power dynamic in their head. And I never want to be like that. Never intended. I never want to.
Focus straight back to his own perceived emotional distress. Let's move to section 3, the Eurosceptic paradox. Now, the source text points out another massive logical gap here, a pretty glaring real-world disconnect. Think about it. The creator is utilizing a very tangible list of state and EU benefits every single day. We're talking free primary and secondary education.
But this is the thing. There was free primary and secondary school education before we joined the European Union. It just didn't happen when the European Union. It was free because it was run by the nuns and the sisters, the Catholic Church basically. So it was already free. It was free for citizens of this country before the European Union. It just didn't happen overnight. And to be totally honest, when we say about benefits, I didn't get much benefits in school. What I mean by that is I had dyslexia. I was held back a year when I first went into primary school because they had no resources to deal with somebody that was dyslexic. I know some people say this is a sob story, but I'm just telling you the truth. And the same when I went to secondary school, I had 40 minutes a week extra help. That's all I had with dyslexia. And that's going to affect me for the rest of my life and will affect me for the rest of my life because I didn't get a proper education. And that's the same with spelling. So I didn't get properly looked after. So I don't know about that, but
an accessible public healthcare system.
But this is the thing about healthcare. I've never been that badly sick, but there's people literally waiting years. There's 900,000 on operation lists, 900,000, maybe a million, and there's people waiting for a doctor's appointment. For example, I had to get a thing signed by the doctor for a health form. It does it every few years, and I had to wait 3 weeks, and I had to pay €30 for 10 minutes. So
Thanks to the European Union, Schengen Agreement travel privileges, and EEA mobility.
But just say about this, like as I said earlier on, the very least the European Union can do, and again, I can't pick my passport. If I could pick my passport, I wouldn't, I would be able to do that. But what I'm trying to say is, I had to pay my way. It's not like I went up to Finland in the morning and get in for free, basically, because I had to pay for my accommodation. It was a huge amount of money. It was an insane amount of money. But I done it anyway because I like Finland. I love the country. It's a great country. It's a nice place. It really, really is. It's a credit to the people of Finland for being such a great country. But I'm not there looking for freebies, if that makes any sense. At the very least, the European Union, because I spent thousands. I wouldn't mind if the Finnish government now tomorrow morning said we're going to charge people for everybody coming into the European Union. We're going to charge €100 to get into Finland from the European Union. I'd be like, fair enough, I paid €100, that'll be it. I wouldn't have an issue with it, basically. I wouldn't have an issue. I have an issue with the tax credit. Like what they're saying about the tax, taxing people, tourists going to Finland, because that will put people off. That will put up a lot of people because it already is not cheap to go to Finland. And I don't mind. I paid. I have no problem with it. But a lot of other people won't pay it. That's the simple thing. I don't think the Finnish government get that. But I'd be willing to pay it. If it was something like €20 a night, for every night you're there, I'd be happy enough to pay it. I would pay it. Because particularly Finland's in a very difficult situation. I'd be willing to pay it, what I'm trying to say. But other people wouldn't. That's what I'm trying to say.
Text points out the profound irony here. This creator uses his platform to promote Euroscepticism, closed borders, and even...
Well, it's not that I'm promoting Euroscepticism. As I said, like the idea of the European Union. I've said this many times, but unfortunately we've lost our way. Because back years ago it was designed for trade. Nowadays the European Parliament tells us what to do in migration, tells us what to do, take us up on hate speech laws, and even the laws that come into this country in Ireland that the Irish government have very little to no say on. That's what I have an issue on. I don't mind the trade aspect. I think the trade aspect is what the European Union was founded on, the very foundations. I think it's great. It benefits every country. But I'm saying that the European Parliament shouldn't have to say what we should do in our own country, apart from trade and stuff. I don't even think the European Parliament should probably exist. There should be only trade and, maybe diplomatic stuff, etc. But not like this. If that makes any sense.
Cavan's separatist rhetoric, all while simultaneously
the Calvin separatist rhetoric, I suppose, because a lot of people have been forgotten about Calvin. That's as simple as that. And I do take it because in the 1937 Constitution, before the Irish Constitution was put in place, they wanted to give more power to the people. There was an article in the Irish Constitution where it wasn't taken out of it. It was taken out of it, but they wanted to give more power to the people. Like, the people are the sovereignty of a nation, and the people are the sovereignty, and the people have the right to the sovereignty and to express their feelings. But that's what it was all about. But that's what I'm talking about.
Relying on the exact state and European institutions he's advocating to tear down. He's literally using the education provided by the state to run a channel calling for its disruption.
But this is the thing. I got very little of an education, as I said. I'm somebody that has special needs and stuff. I don't mean to whack on about this, but I wasn't properly looked after. And simple as that, it wasn't. Many people said, even politicians and stuff said, that I was forgotten about. That was what was happening. I was forgotten about for years. So the state done very little for me, to be totally honest. And still to this day, I can't spell that great. My grammar's not great. I was forgotten about. Simple as that. So,
To really put this paradox into perspective, the source material brings up the Åland Islands. The creator frequently boasts about traveling to the Nordic region, right? Well, the Åland Islands are an autonomous, demilitarized, Swedish-speaking region of Finland. But the kicker here is this. Their autonomy is highly successful specifically because it's protected by international law and deeply integrated into the European ecosystem.
Oh, I know about the Åland Islands. Yeah, I was invited many times to that. I still have to go. I will go someday. But, I understand that, but it's different. But a lot of people in the Åland Islands want to be in Finland, want to remain Finnish. Now, I understand it's an autonomous territory, etc. I get that. But, but international law, I'm not suggesting, I never suggest that we should leave international law, etc. But I don't agree with the European law. The European law is making a mess of the place. But I don't mind international law. I do think there should be international laws, governing countries, except for example, what is happening, etc., warfare, etc. I have no issue with that. There has to be some kind of international base, or rules-based order, a sad amount, I'd say.
They are a textbook example of how real stability comes from cooperation and law, which the
cooperation definitely brings stability. But I don't think, apart from the international courts, etc., fair enough, I don't mind them bringing in laws. But the European Union shouldn't be bringing in your laws for countries, if that makes sense, because it's up to the countries to decide what's best for them.
Is the exact opposite of
But the problem with the whole European Union, again, it's the fact of sovereignty. I believe that these men who gave their lives, gave their lives for a reason. And that's as simple as that. They give their lives for a reason, along with many thousands of other Irish people. That's what I truly believe.
Chaotic separatism you see peddled in fringe online spaces. And the ultimate irony? It's EU mobility that allows the creator to even visit them in the first place. Finally, we reach Section 4, Patriotism versus Provocation. So, what are the ultimate real-world consequences of this specific...
But the thing I say about this, about the keyboard particularly warrior, I know he probably said about keyboard warrior, I'm here. People have seen me on the street. People know who I am. They know where I live, etc. I live in a small village. People can find me if they wanted to. All my local politicians all know me. I'm even known by other politicians outside of Cavan. I'm known. What I'm trying to say, I am known as a person. I don't stand behind a keyboard. Whatever I say it in public too. There's been many, many times I've met people that seen me online and would discuss things. Would discuss things that I've said online and be like, oh yeah, I agree with that. Oh, I might not disagree. I disagree a bit in that. And fair enough. And I would talk to them. Because again, it's all about talking to people. And that's what I do. I don't sit behind a keyboard. If I met somebody and if I met this person on the street, I would talk to them. I wouldn't walk away with them. I'd talk to them. Unless I was doing something, let something really going somewhere, if that makes any sense. But if I met them on the street, I would have a discussion with them. I meet so many people that know me on social media and I have a discussion with them. I talk to them. Even though I might not agree with them, I still listen to them. I talk to them. Because that's what it's all about. It really, really is. It's all about people, as Santa Marin would say, and I think that summarizes everything.
And of digital rhetoric. The analysis argues that pushing isolationism onto Ireland, especially while personally soaking up all those EU mobility benefits, is basically...
But this is the thing, the EU people, I only went once this year, and twice actually last year. But I'm trying to say there's people literally going every week between countries. I know somebody that works in the Netherlands, and they're between Ireland and the Netherlands 3 or 4 times a month, or maybe even more. So they're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And they wouldn't agree too much with the European Union, but they go on Ryanair, etc. flights. But, they're going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Like, it's very rarely I use that EU benefits. Like, for example, I only go once in the Blue Moon at this stage. I went recently enough, but you get what I'm saying. Like, it'd be different if I was using it every day, but I'm very seldom using anything.
Basically, a betrayal of the country's future. This quote from the source is just incredibly striking. It reminds us that online rhetoric definitely has real-world echoes. Yelling Ireland for the Irish slogans while completely ignoring the European cooperation that actually made modern Ireland a global hub.
But this is the thing about the European Union. It wasn't so much that. The Irish government basically sold the country out to Google, etc., because they lowered the tax. Like, it wasn't the European Union that told us to lower the tax, the corporation tax. The Irish government done it themselves to get grubby deals from American tycoons, etc. That's what it was all about. It wasn't the European Union. The European Union didn't really benefit us at all. It was the Irish government reducing the tax and, of course, making it a tax haven for corporations and stuff. That's what happened. And, of course, Irish people working very hard. That's what caused that too. And, of course, the tax too. Loads of tax.
That isn't true patriotism. The analysis argues it's just a digital performance. True love for a country involves putting in the work to fix its challenges, not just...
But this is the thing with Walker. The challenges that Ireland faces, it will not be solved in my lifetime. We're talking since 2008 about the housing crisis, and we're still here. What I'm trying to say is I'm working every day to try my best to fix problems. But unfortunately, the state won't work with people. And that's the state will not work with people. And when you have an institution, you have a government, and you have a society, not society, but an institution like local authorities, etc., that will not work with people, then there's no hope of change.
Just calling for its destruction from behind a keyboard.
But this is the thing, I won't say it behind the keyboard. Like, I'm openly saying it to people, like I meet, etc. And a lot of people would agree with me. Because, unfortunately, in Cavan here, the local authority is rotten. It is rotten. The institution is rotten. It needs to be rebuilt to put focus on the people.
Leaves us with this final overarching question to chew on. When an online persona completely relies on a single photo as a shield, and when it thrives on this endless cycle of grievance and victimhood, what actually...
But the thing I would say, but whatever the grievances, I have a lot of grievances with the Irish government, I will admit that. Not so much the victimhood. I don't sit here and say I'm a victim. But, there's a lot of grievances.
Happens when that exclusionary online rhetoric inevitably collides with our deeply interconnected, messy real-world reality. Because at the end of the day, a single photo with a world leader doesn't make you a diplomat. Your actions and your words...
I never claimed to be a diplomat. I know my words and my actions do matter more than that. Of course, I understand that. I get that. But, as I say, I have my views and I have my views. But I never claimed to be a diplomat. I don't intend to be a diplomat. But, But as I say, I have no hatred towards this creator. Nothing to get them. Again, I wouldn't say I'm a crybody. But again, as I say, it's good that I'm here to address this. But the thing I say about just the last point, and I'll probably make a whole video talking about this, that Santa Marin, the most hate I ever got, and the most criticism I ever got, was to do with Santa Marin particularly. You might think that is insane, but it was the truth. Like, the most criticism I ever got was to do with Santa Marin. And even people that I knew and stuff, they were saying, is this the right choice? Is this the right choice in defending Santa Marin, particularly when she joined the Tony Blair Institute? A lot of people were like, hold on a second, what is happening here? And you're defending her. There were people still to this day still say that even though I don't like Tony Blair and vehemently disagree with him, I still support Santa Marin. I still support whatever she wants to do. I would support her. And usually she has my total trust and support, basically. And regardless of what happens, I'm going to be there with her. I stand with her. And I'm determined to do that, whatever happens. As long as I'm alive, I will do that. I think I owe it to her at this stage. And particularly for me, the respect that was shown by her. I owe it to her. But this is the thing. The amount of criticism I've got for that, for her joining the Tony Blair Institute, and particularly her joining NATO, etc., was insane. Like, I don't think it's unimaginable how much criticism I got from in real life and online, etc. It's insane. But I never let that change me. I still support the woman I support. And I always will. As simple as that, regardless of what anybody does, I always will support who I think is right. And I do think Sanna Marin is the best person possibly we could ever have. And I think Europe is lucky too to have such a woman like Sanna Marin. But, but it's just to say claims what that love Sanna Marin but hates what she stands for. Like Sanna Marin to me stands for freedom. Above all else, she stands for freedom, and I can relate to her. Because her main message is to people: don't be afraid to speak up, don't be afraid to say what you think. And I think that's the main thing. And I think Sanna Marin to me shows anybody that anybody can become anything. Now, I never wanted to become anything, but to people I do think she's a great inspiration. She didn't come from an easy childhood, etc. But I respect the hell out of her. I think she's the greatest politician of all time. And the criticism got for defending Sanna Marin, just even being a nationalist. I will describe myself as a nationalist. But usually people would criticise me because I'm a nationalist, I'm on the other side of the divide, and I hate using the divide. But even people that I know, like over in Finland and stuff, they're in the Social Democrats, as they say, it's great to have me on their side, because the reason why is not many nationalists and stuff would want to be seen with Sanna Marin, and to support her. And again, I'm the person on the other side supporting her. And I always will be there, as simple as that. But I don't hold anything against this creator, so please don't argue with him. Please don't give out to mind to that, because he's entitled to his opinion. The whole reason why I wanted to talk about this is not to start drama or anything. I think it's important to talk about these things. And it's important just to address it, because I probably should address it long ago, and apologize my voice is going a bit. But I do think it's important to talk about it. But anyway, let me know what you think. But just to say, I don't know what this is supposed to be, but yeah. Anyway. Thank you, Evan. I appreciate it. I know this is probably long, so I appreciate you sticking around. And of course, I mean no disrespect. I consider him as a friend. I know people would say that's insane, usually, because a lot of people would say this is insane for anybody to make a video. Basically denouncing you in a way too, but this is not. I wouldn't classify this as denouncing me. Like, I do think he raises some legitimate points. Like, in fairness, he does raise some legitimate points. And I probably will talk about specifically Sanna Marin, etc., because that's one thing I think he wants really to talk about. But I think it deserves his own video. But yeah, take care, everyone. Appreciate it, and enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, bye.